Okay, gosh, it's been busy moving houses and going on adventures, but now it's time for us to get back into Sky Pirates and the Dragon's Gold, because we have not been reading it for like a week, 2 weeks maybe, and it was getting really interesting. Horace would be fine and they'd be on their way back to the Scarlet Margaret in no time. That's what she was thinking. Before she jumped, she took a deep breath. She would keep telling herself this, however unlikely it might seem, or she might never hold her nerve. Echo turned her back to the doorway, grabbed the rope in both hands, and made her way down the swaying ladder. Echo landed on the rocks, followed by old Gus and Mai. She looked around. The place was nothing like the lazy warmth of Sleepy Palms or the icy blizzard of Shark's Fin Peak. Instead, the air was cool and fresh, filled with the scent of pine trees. Over on the mainland, Echo could see the city of Aqua Libra, with its grand waterfront houses of pale stone and the labyrinth of canals winding between them. "Come on, no time for sightseeing," said old Gus, prodding Echo between the shoulder blades with his sword. That's not very nice. Well, it'd certainly make you do something if somebody was prodding you between the shoulder blades with their sword, wouldn't it, Arabella?
Oh, yeah.
Arabella thinks so too. Mai strode past them and went over to the air vent. She knelt down and prized off the grill with her cutlass. There was a metallic ping and one of the bolts flew into the air. Old Gus joined her and they worked quickly, loosening the metal grid until finally they pulled it free to reveal a narrow, sloping tunnel. Bless you, Arabella, just sneezed. Echo peered into the ventilation shaft. A gust of warm, musty air pushed her back and she wrinkled her nose. You wrinkling your nose? Good one. Old Gus and Mai fastened one end of a rope ladder to the edge of the opening where the grill had been attached, and Mai gave it a hearty tug. "Seems to hold, Captain," she said. Old Gus nodded, and she threw the rest of the ladder into the shaft. Echo heard it slithering open and bouncing down the walls. After a few moments, there was a distant thud as the end hit the bottom far below. Just how deep was this tunnel? And what was waiting for her at the bottom? Did old Gus even know? "Get down there," said old Gus with a sneer. Echo took a last quick look around, then spat on both hands, rubbed them together, and clambered backwards down the ladder and into the darkness. Gosh, she's an adventurer. As she descended into the warm murk, she heard old Gus cry after her, "Noon, remember, we'll be waiting." As if she could forget, Echo tried to push her worries about Horace out of her mind and squeezed her way down. The ventilation shaft was indeed too narrow for adults to have fitted through, and it was hard work inching her way down the rope ladder, banging elbows and knees on the metallic sides of the shaft and catching her clothing on rivets that held sections together. She glanced down into the gloom but couldn't make anything out. Who knew how deep this ventilation duct even went? If she lost her grip for a moment and fell, Echo shook herself. No, she wouldn't even think about that. She wouldn't fall at the first hurdle. She had to get into the library, solve the rest of the clue, and find that map. And the sooner she did that, the sooner Horace would be safe, and the sooner they'd be back on the Scarlet Margaret with Lil and crew. Echo set her jaw and kept going. By the time she'd reached the bottom of the shaft, Echo's hands were raw and so stiff she could barely grip the ropes anymore. She collapsed onto the floor and looked around. She had emerged into a large, dimly lit room with walls of thick bluish-purple glass bricks that bent the light into strange, rippling shadows. A series of huge fans whirred on the far wall, their blades slicing the air rhythmically and sending a steady wind whistling through the room. "Where now?" said Echo, aloud. She's just thinking to herself. She was just talking to herself. She wasn't like talking to anybody else because there's nobody else there. Gilbert crawled out of her gherkin jacket and blinked, then pointed his snout at the only exit, a corridor that curved away in front of them through the murky glass. "Well, here we go," said Echo, taking a deep breath and gathering all her courage. She'd been to libraries before, first in the castle at Lockfort, even though it had been out of bounds, and then again in Port Tourbillon. But both those times had been with Horace, and nobody had been in deathly danger, she thought grimly. She stroked Gilbert's scaly tail and made off down the glass-walled corridor. When she got to the end, she gasped. "Let's see your gasp." "Let's see Arabella's gasp. Hold on. Let's see your gasp." Good gasping. We know about gasping from Matilda, who told lies and was burned to death. It made her... Matilda told such dreadful lies that made her gasp. Anyway, back to Echo's story. She was standing on an endlessly long balcony, high above the library stacks. The roof of the building was made entirely of glass, and above them Echo saw shoals of iridescent fish slide past. Oh my goodness, they're underwater. Of course, they were beneath the sea. She leaned over the balcony rails and took in the enormity of the library below, stack after stack of shelves stretched out as far as she could see. "How big is this place?" she murmured. "It goes on forever." A prickle of fear ran down her spine. These vaults were huge. Even if she could solve the clue, how was this ever going to find the map in something as large as this? And what would happen to Horace if she failed? End of chapter. Next one is chapter 15. Let's read the first couple of sentences of chapter 15. "Oh, Gilbert," Echo said in dismay as they looked over the balcony railing. "It's hopeless." Below them, the library spread out like a never-ending labyrinth of bookshelves. Echo's head spun. How could she possibly find a map in all of this? We will find out more next time. Good night, Baba. Sleep well. I love you. Kiss for me. Thank you. Good night. Arabella, will you say good night to Grace?